Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the strategic analysis of BYD's ability to internationalize. Here we will discuss about the company analysis, the target market analysis, internationalization procedures and the entry strategy selected. Next slide please. Now we'll talk about the company analysis, which are the introduction, industrial sectors, competitors, export markets, export readiness check and the SWOT analysis as well. Now, as we all know, Build Your Dreams, BYD is a publicly listed Chinese multinational conglomerate manufacturing company which is headquartered in Shenzhen, and it was founded by Wang Chungfu in February 1995. As per 2022, BYD is ranked 12th in the most valuable Chinese automobile brands. It is the global leader in electric vehicles. Also, it offers electric cars, buses, trucks, and other energy storage systems. And it has a global impact all over the world. It operates over 100 countries. Next slide, please. Now we'll talk about the company overview, which are the products, and the products include the electric vehicles, buses, trucks, energy storage solutions, solar panels, and their related components. Next to the industries or sectors, BYD operates in the automotive, energy, and technology sectors. Its main competitors are mainly Tesla, Nissan, and in the EV industry. And other than the EV industry, in the energy storage sector, the competitors include the Tesla Energy, LG Chem, and Panasonic. Next, we will talk about the export markets, and BYD exports its product globally, including the countries like Europe, North America, Oceania, and Asia. Next slide, please. Now we have applied the McKinsey 7S model in BYD's internal environmental analysis. The 7S is the strategy, structure, system, skills, staff, style, and the shared values. BYD strategy revolves around the Green Dreams vision, and also it follows and maintains a complex organizational structure with various divisions for its automotive and energy storage and electronics business. The BYD has a robust systems in place of manufacturing, supply chain management, and also it employs a diverse workforce comprising the engineers, scientists, technicians, and business professionals. It has a leadership style and is characterized by a strong commitment to innovation, efficiency, and sustainability. Next slide, please. Now we'll discuss about the external environmental analysis, and we have applied the Porter's 5 forces to BYD analysis. So first we'll talk about the threat of new entrants, which are mainly moderate to high due to growth of the electric vehicle industry and the increasing emphasis on renewable energy solutions. Next is the bargaining power of suppliers are moderate to high, as BYD relies on suppliers for critical components such as batteries, electronics, and other raw materials for manufacturing EVs. Next is the bargaining power of the buyers is moderate to high, as buyers such as the components, such as the governments and the corporations and consumers have a range of options in the EV and renewable energy markets. The competitive rivalry is the most important forces of the Porter's 5 forces, which is very high due to intense competition in the global automotive and renewable energy industries, and the threat of the substitutes is moderate to low, as traditional internal combustion engine vehicles and conventional energy sources still dominate the automotive and energy markets. Next slide, please. Now my colleague Jaspreet will take over from this slide. Thank you.
So thank you, Pooja. Let us have a look into the financial overview of the BYD Group. From Figure 1, we can see the BYD Group earned more than 602 billion yuan in revenue in 2023, which is an increase of 40% as compared to the previous year. In Figure 2, revenue from 2016 to 2023 by consumer location. In 2023, BYD Group operating revenue in Greater China region accounted for 73.4% of the total revenue, while its revenue in overseas region represented 26.6%. BYD Group totally revenue exceeded 602 billion yuan in 2023. In Figure 3, we can see the BYD recorded the steepest sale growth in 2021 in the sector of a plug-in electric vehicle worldwide. Next slide, please. Major competitor revenue. Tesla revenue from 2008 to 2023 grown to nearly 96.8 billion US dollar in the 2023 year, which is an 18.8% increase from the previous year. Volkswagen Group revenue grew to 3 to 5 billion euros into in the 2023 year. Export export reading checks before entering the Bhutan market. Its crisis BYD to conduct BYD to conduct an export rating check. This involves assessing the similarity between BYD product and services and the needs of the Bhutan market, particularly in the emerging renewable energy sector. BYD must evaluate its knowledge of Bhutan regulations, consumer behavior, and marketing dynamic. Next slide, please. SWOT analyst. To better understand BYD position, let's examine its strength, weakness, opportunity, the threat through the SWOT analyze. First, strength. Innovating leader in electric vehicle technology, energy storage solution, and renewable energy product. Diverse product portfolio catering to various marketing segment. Weakness. Weakness. Market dependence on electric vehicle and renewable energy sector. Brand perception challenges compared to established brand. Opportunities. Growth in electric vehicle driven by global emissions reduction policies. Explain of renewable energy marketing. Marketing. Threat. Competitive landscape with established and new entrants. Regulatory risk from change in government policies and trade regulations. Now, the next slide will be presented by Amika, who will provide further insight about the BYD target marketing analysis.
Thank you very much, Jasprit. I'll be talking about the target market analysis. And the target market is basically a group of people which a company plans to sell its products to and create a consumer base out of. And here we've chosen three potential target markets. One is Nigeria, another is Bhutan, and the last one is Cameroon. And we'll be telling you why we have chosen these target markets. Next slide, please. Target market option number one, Nigeria. The political space in Nigeria is quite stable, established trade agreements, and etc. The economic space in Nigeria, there's a high poverty rate, a low rate of unemployment, but low paid jobs. Socially, Nigeria has a whopping demographic of 200 million people, and majority of Nigerians are large-scale consumers of petroleum. Technologically, Nigeria is not so advanced technologically as there is a limited supply of electricity. Legally, there are weak copyright infringement laws to protect companies and the presence of employment laws. Environmentally, there are available ports, available infrastructure, and also abundant resources. Next slide, please. Reasons to choose Nigeria as a potential target market. Number one, the need for sustainable and environmentally friendly automobile alternatives to petrol-powered vehicles. A large population that a company can make a consumer base out of, the presence of abundant natural resources for production, and also low quality jobs, meaning that if a company can create jobs in that market, it will be a bonus to them. Also, it's fairly easy to do business in Nigeria, so it might be a good option. Next slide, please. Reasons not to choose Nigeria. There's a high poverty rate, meaning that the citizens might not be able to afford the electric vehicles. There's a poor supply of electricity, so it might be difficult to power the electric vehicles. High rate of corruption, implying higher cost of setting up, and also presence of petroleum resources, meaning that the country might not want to switch to an alternative. Next slide, please. Target market option number two, Bhutan. The political space in Bhutan is quite stable, established relations with India and China and etc. Economically, there is presence of lower middle income earners, not too rich, not too poor. Unemployment rate is steadily decreasing. And socially, there is a whopping sum of 782,455 people in the nation with difficulty to find the right jobs. So if any company can take advantage of this, it could be able to thrive in the market. Technologically, Bhutan is quite sound in the sense that there's available electricity, available information and communication technology. Legally, there are copyright laws to protect the intellectual property of companies. Environmentally, there is infrastructure, and Bhutan is landlocked, bordered by China and India, which happen to be countries where BYD has established its presence. Next slide, please. Reasons to choose Bhutan. There is a record of political stability. Um, there is available electricity to power the electric vehicles, unlike the Nigerian market. There is economic stability in the presence of lower middle income earners. And also, there is shared borders with China and India, which my colleague Malik will be talking on later. Next slide, please. Reasons not to choose Bhutan. Chance of difficulty in accessing skilled labor, lower population size compared to other markets, and the risk of penalties if consumer rights are neglected. From comparing the Bhutanese market to the Nigerian market, we can see that the risk involved in going into the Bhutanese market is lower than that involved in going into the Nigerian market. Now I'll hand over to my colleague Chichi to speak on Cameroon. Thank you.
Thank you, Emeka, for that wonderful presentation. Here we'll be considering Cameroon as a target market option. We did a personal analysis of Cameroon, and the following findings were made. Under the political analysis, we found out that Cameroon is not politically stable. It has trade agreements with countries like the USA and China. The economic analysis for Cameroon shows that the poverty level is relatively high, as about 55% of the individuals live in abject poverty. Their unemployment rate is as low as 4%. Also, Cameroon is an economically stable country. As regards the social analysis, Cameroon has a population of about 26.5 million people. Also, they have a high consumption rate of petroleum. As regards their technological analysis, in terms of electricity, they have a relatively high percentage of population that have access to electricity. Cameroon has interest in ICT development as a tool to diminish poverty rate. As regards the legal analysis, they have their labor code, and this allows adults and legal citizens the right to work. They also have consumer protection laws. As regards environmental analysis, there's a shortage in infrastructure. For instance, they have badly constructed roads. Also, their climate change is not very favorable. Next slide, please. Reasons to choose Cameroon. The need for environmentally friendly transportation, like the electric vehicle, is a good reason. It will also serve as a way of reducing fuel costs. Their government policies in Cameroon favor this cause. It will also give the opportunity to access renewable energy, like solar energy and hydropower. The electric vehicle market is highly exploited in Cameroon, so it's opportunity to bring in this market. So this is an opportunity for you to bring in this market into Cameroon. Reasons not to choose Cameroon. Next slide, please. Some of the reasons not to choose Cameroon will be inadequate infrastructure for charging electric vehicles, insufficient purchasing power, as so many of the citizens there live in abject poverty, so they won't be able to afford the vehicles. And of course, they have a challenge with electricity. So based on these, we consider Cameroon to be a high risk, so we cannot choose Cameroon. Thank you very much. I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Ayan.
I'm going to talk about the internationalization of BYD electric vehicles in the Bhutanese market, focusing on the rationale behind recommending the Uppsala model for BYD's market entry. Internationalization basically refers to the process of expanding a company's business operation into the international market, and the Uppsala model is a gradual and slow approach to internationalization, emphasizing incremental commitment and learning from the market experience. Especially for BYD's relatively unfamiliar Bhutanese market, the Uppsala model is recommended because of the significant differences in the market conditions. One of the key challenges BYD may face in Bhutan is mitigating risk in an unfamiliar market environment. The Uppsala model's incremental approach allows BYD to gradually increase its commitment and resources as it gains a better understanding of the market dynamics. And actually speaking about the Uppsala model's flexibility to adapt BYD's strategy and operations to the evolving market dynamics effectively is really important. And the market dynamics such as the consumer preferences, regulatory environment, and competitive landscape, which can change rapidly. If we can adapt to that, it will be very beneficial. By following this iterative approach, BYD can respond swiftly to the changes, maintaining a competitive edge and ensuring long-term success. And also, acquiring in-depth market knowledge is crucial for a successful internationalization. The Uppsala model's gradual approach allows BYD to incrementally acquire this knowledge through hands-on experience and local partnerships. Nextly, it's also very important uh, to understand as a significant challenge that BYD is facing to overcome the substantial psychic distance between China and Bhutan, which can be overcome by using India as an intermediary market, as it has better road and railway connectivity with Bhutan, which can facilitate a smoother transition for BYD. Also, it's very important for us to establish a strong local presence and develop partnerships with the local business and stakeholder is very crucial for long-term success in the Bhutanese market. And nextly, it's also very important to understand the goal of internationalization is to achieve long-term sustainable growth, and the Uppsala model's incremental approach enables BYD to continuously refine its strategy and operation based on the market experiences and feedback. And also the iterative learning process for BYD is sustainable growth and long-term success in the Bhutanese market. Finally, coming to the comparison of internationalization models such as the network approach and Porter's the diamond model, the Uppsala model is recommended into the BYD's entry into Bhutan due to its systematic approach, risk mitigation strategies, and the ability to adapt to evolving market dynamics effectively. In conclusion, the Uppsala model's gradual and slow approach to internationalization aligns well with BYD's need to navigate the challenges entering the relatively unfamiliar Bhutanese market. Thank you so much. And next slide will be presented by my colleague Suraj.
First of all, I'm going to talk about market overview of Bhutan. Bhutan is a small landlocked nation in Himalayas, has a steadily growing economy with GDP growth rate of 44.3%. Its population stands around 7,000, sorry, 760,000. The key economic sectors include agriculture, forestry, tourism, and hydropower. Next slide, please. Automotive market overview. The vehicle ownership rate in the Bhutan is relatively low at 77 vehicles per 1,000 people. Bhutan is entirely dependent on imported vehicles as it does not have any domestic automotive industry. The top imported vehicles brands are Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, and Toyota. The EV market potential Bhutan presents a promising opportunity for electric vehicles. The government aims to phase out fossil fuel vehicle imports by 2035 and has implemented tax exemptions and incentives for EVs. Additionally, Bhutan's renewable energy potential, particularly its hydropower surplus, supports EV adoption. Next slide, please. Some import regulations are also there. To enter in Bhutanese market, BYD will need to obtain import license for vehicles, and the import duty on vehicles currently ranges from 45% to 50%. It's important to note that there are restrictions on importing right-hand drive vehicles. Next slide. Production cost. As a Bhutan lacks of domestic EV manufacturing capacity, BYD will need to rely on imports. However, landlocked location of Bhutan leads to high transportation cost, while there is potential for local assembly or manufacturing if demand is sufficient. Initially, production costs are likely to be higher. Next slide, please. Infrastructure challenges. One of the key challenges for EV adoption in Bhutan is limited charging infrastructure, especially in rural areas. The mountainous terrain also poses challenges for infrastructure deployment. Additionally, there is a lack of skilled workforce for EV maintenance and repair. Next slide, please. Uh, Cultural consideration. On a positive note, Buddhist values and environmental consciousness prevalent in Bhutanese culture, align well with EV's adoption. However, BYD will need to localize its marketing and customer support effort and navigate cultural norms and business etiquettes. Next slide, please. Other business risks are also there. BYD's operations in Bhutan may face risks such as dependence on imported components and technologies, potential supply chain disruption, and limited domestic market size with constraints on the purchasing power. Next slide, please. There are some geographical issues also because Bhutan is location is like landlocked and depending on neighboring countries for trade pose logistical challenges. The mountainous terrain and remote areas can also make disruption and service delivery difficult. Additionally, the climate variations due to altitude temperature may impact EV performance. There are some technical and pricing issues. A range limitations of EV in Bhutan, uh, Bhutan's terrain and climate could be a concern. Furthermore, high initial cost of EVs compared to conventional vehicles may hinder adoption. BYD will need to offer competitive pricing and financing options to make EVs more accessible. Next slide, please. Agents of distribution. To effectively reach the Bhutanese market, BYD could explore partnership with local automotive dealers or importers. Establishing a dedicated sales and service network for EVs would also be beneficial. Additionally, leveraging e-commerce and digital platforms for sales and marketing could be advantageous. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Uh, There are some regulations we need to consider for BYD. BYD will need to ensure compliances with Bhutan's vehicle safety emission and technical standards, navigating import policies, taxes and custom procedures will be crucial. Additionally, BYD should stay abreast of potential regulatory changes or new EV specific policies that may be introduced. Next slide, please. There are some competitors for BYD. BYD will face competition from several players in the Bhutani business. The Nissan Leaf introduced local distributor and Hyundai Kona Electric, which Hyundai plans to introduce, pose significant challenge. Local EV companies such as Mahindra Electric and Tata Electric vehicles are also potential competitors. And now next part will covered by Dhanush. So I will hand over to my colleague Dhanush. Thank you.
As a financial plan for BYD's entry into Bhutan's market, BYD's investment has been very low, focused on establishing distribution channels. And there are three phases. We are going on the first phase now, which is the first year to the second one. As seen between the years, export duties, transportations, local marketing, sales operations, after sales services, everything has gone high. And when we come to the project revenue, the unit sold has been more than the previous year, which is 500 to 800, as there was no change in the selling price and the total revenue has a growth of it. And moving to phase two, where the year is between 3 to 5. In phase two, it is like licensing or joint venture, as the entry mode is different. The results has been the same as it was in the first phase, which has been increasing, and there was no downfall in any total revenue, but only it has been increased in the project costs. And when we move to phase three, which is like year 6 to 8, the phase three is all about own subsidiary, which is like establishing local manufacturing facilities. As we can see, this mode will like not let the project cost get high, and also the average selling prices getting lower as the year passes, and that increases the revenue as the year passes because the unit has been sold is getting increased. Next, please.
Hello everyone.
Yeah. And when we move to revenue growth, as I told, it has been increasing. It has been increased from 50 million to 138 million in the year 1 to 8. And cost optimization, localized production and sourcing of components can lead to cost saving from the year 6 onwards. And market share targets, the aim was like for 5%, and it has been increased for 10% in the year 5 and 20% in the year 8. Financing, exploring a mix of internal funding, depth, and potential strategic partnerships, or it also can be joint ventures. And when we move to risk, allocate funds for market researchers, local workforce, and reserves to, which leads to risks. Government incentives, where the Bhutan government investigates like potential tax incentives, subsidies, um, and all the other forms of support from them. Long-term profitability, like I told, the company's profitability, we can see it in the chart as it has been growing from the year 1 to 8, which is like a long term. In crucial of BYD, continuously monitor an adjustment in financial plan, which is based on the market conditions and the company's performance in each phase, like phase 1 to 3. The gradual approach of the Uppsala model allows for a controlled and adaptable financial strategy, which is minimizing the risk while like giving opportunities in the Bhutan market. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, considering all the data and information that we have gathered, we've decided on an export strategy for BYD Bhutan. In considering this export strategy, we'll start by planning the transportation to Bhutan. As highlighted by my colleagues Ayan and Suraj in their internationalization procedure, the border between Bhutan and China is unfavorable. So we'll go through the Shinlong border crossing between India and Bhutan, where we can go by road or by rail. Next slide, please. So also required, which Emeka spoke about in his targets market analysis for Bhutan. There is an existing Indian Bhutan trade agreement which will facilitate the process. The necessary documents that we'll need will include a trade license, certificate of origin, packing list, commercial invoice, export declaration, transport bill, and insurance documents. Next slide, please. We also have to consider international trade regulations, Bhutanese market considerations, and distribution strategy. In the international trade regulations, Incoterms will be used, which is a globally recognized trade rule outlining the buyer and seller guidelines. The market consideration, because we know that most people from Bhutan live in rural areas and they don't make that much money anyways, we're going to have to select our price range between 1.5 million to 3 million of the local Bhutanese currency. We'll now also look at distribution. So we may need to set up subsidiaries or an office with a warehouse or something to keep our stock and distribute our stock nationwide. Next slide. Right. So when we have the products, the EVs in the market, we would have to find a way to sell them all, and that's when we come to promotional strategies, regular, traditional, radio, media, folk arts. However, it's been noted that the digital advertising agencies that is going to rise significantly between 2023 and 2027. So, other than the traditional methods, BYD should invest in modern digital marketing strategies. Next slide, please. In conclusion, we have internally and externally analyzed the environment, and we will recommend that BYD continue to spread and explore other regions that it will get benefits that it won't have gotten in its home region. Thank you for listening to our presentation.